On Newsnight, we hear the desperation that forced thousands of mostly unemployed youth to the Wak Stadium in search of employment into the armed forces, leading to a stampede that has claimed 6 lives, with many more fighting for their lives in intensive care.
Why are you so desperate to get into the Ghana Armed Forces?
It has always been my dream since childhood, and then getting to the armed forces is like it's secured. Actually, comparing to maybe working for someone or...
We have the very latest, including the acting defense minister's assurance that the incident today will thoroughly be investigated by a board tasked to conduct a probe into the incident.
The Ghana Armed Forces has instituted an internal board of inquiry to investigate the causes of this unfortunate incident. Right Honorable Speaker, the safety and dignity of applicants remains paramount.
We have details as MPs on both sides unite in demanding that the Ghana Armed Forces modernize its recruitment plans.
We cannot treat this as an isolated incident. There must be a full-scale investigation into the circumstances surrounding the tragedy.
And as concerned and indeed affected leaders, we must move to restore hope in our people, even in the time of grief.
Plus, the MP for Pusiga's rather curious pronouncements on the floor of Parliament today on the incident.
I want us to all take solace in the Almighty Allah. There is nothing that happens that doesn't happen at the right time. This is what the Almighty Allah has ordained for them. Today is their day.
In business.
2026 budget to focus on existing special initiative to help create more jobs to deal with the high unemployment situation.
And in sports, Nigeria Super Eagles return to training after resolving bonus dispute.
You want to join us with your thoughts here on Newsnight, and if you were there today at the Wak Stadium in search of recruitment into the armed forces, I want to hear from you. 055-1111-997. Well, it's been a tragic day as thousands sought recruitment into the Ghana Armed Forces. We're going to be hearing tonight the desperation that forced thousands of mostly unemployed youth to the Wak Stadium in search of employment. Some of them, they just simply wanted decent employment into the Ghana Armed Forces. That led to the stampede that has claimed 6 lives, with many still fighting for their lives. So we're bringing you the very latest from the 37 Military Hospital, where my colleague Kenneth JC will be standing by with the latest on those who are on admission, some in intensive care. But in Parliament today, this has been a subject that all MPs are united on. They want a probe into the matter. We've heard from the acting defense minister, who has been briefing Parliament on what will happen. We'll hear from the minister pretty shortly, Dr. Kessie Olatilfosing. But before the minister addressed Parliament today, 2 MPs delivered urgent statements on the matter. First was a minority chief whip himself, Frank Anodompre. Listen.
This is no small matter to shelve. And as concerned and indeed affected leaders, we must move to restore hope in our people, even in the time of grief. Speaker, the grief heightened when other reports came indicating that the death toll was now at least 12 persons. It then came clearly to me that we must act immediately to resolve the risks associated with such recruitment process which have lingered too long a time. I resolve to make this important call as first step to immediately suspend the recruitment process for the time. We also must urgently ensure that the process be decentralized or further decentralized to address the excessively large crowds as well as the other risks faced by people traveling various parts of the country. As an arm of government, we urgently need the Deputy Minister for Defense, under the circumstance, to come to the House and brief the people on what alternative measures will be employed to deal with such risks. Speaker, this is not merely a tragic accident. It is a profound and systemic failure and the indictment of a system that has lost its effectiveness.
Well, NDC MP for Ketu North, Eric Demagbana, also delivered a statement calling for urgent review of the armed forces recruitment methods.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot treat this as an isolated incident. there must be a full-scale investigation into the circumstances surrounding the tragedy, from crowd management and planning to logistics and coordination. We must establish accountability and ensure that the systemic failures that led to this incident are decisively addressed. If anyone slept on their job, they must be sanctioned accordingly. The findings, Mr. Speaker, of this investigation should guide immediate and practical reforms in the recruitment processes of our security institutions. Mr. Speaker, it is time to rethink the centralized mode of conducting these recruitment exercises. The days of assembling thousands of young applicants in a single venue must end. We must further decentralize the process and adopt a data-driven, technology-enabled system that allows applicants to be screened and processed in batches across various regions. This approach will enhance transparency, efficiency, and more importantly, safety, while preserving the dignity of our young people. Finally, Mr. Speaker, this tragedy must awaken our collective conscience. As a nation, it calls for renewed commitment to creating decent and sustainable jobs for our young people, so that the desperation does not push them into unsafe situations. Let this not be another headline that fades away, Mr. Speaker. Let it be a turning point that compels us to act responsibly, humanely, and with urgency towards our young citizens. Mr. Speaker, I humbly call on you to direct the relevant committees of Parliament to look into this tragedy. May the souls of the departed rest in perfect peace, and may our nation learn and rise stronger from this painful loss.
Right now, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Nkoko Nkitinkiti joins us via telephone with details from the House. Nkoko, so the former Defence Minister, that's Dominic Nitiwood, had made some suggestions on modernizing the process. What did he say?
Well, yes, he started by talking about how MPs should not be politicizing this. And in fact, as the comments were being made, passions were being inflamed and MPs were blaming each other. Dominic Nitiwood said this was not a political matter, and that when he was minister, and even his predecessors, some who served in the NDC, all did their best to modernize this process. Listen to him.
Let me take this opportunity to sincerely sympathize with the families of the people who lost their lives in these tragic circumstances where young people indeed went out there to look for a job for themselves, only to find themselves lying in the mortuary. The last thing we can do is to politicize their deaths. It's very, very painful, because if you're a family member, you'll be very sad to see somebody trying to do politics with this. So I will not, and I don't expect any member to do that. But Mr. Speaker, the military had never, not under my watch, or under Kumbo or Woyogo, or Kandapa or Adukufo, or any of the ministers of defense in the past, deviated from what they are currently doing. They had always gone to the regional capitals to do exactly what they are doing now. Never. We did that in 2017, 2021, we did the same thing. At no point did the military deviate from that exercise. I just wanted to make that correction.
Quick, also, the MP for Pusiga made some comments, which of course received criticism from members of the House. Tell us about that.
Well, Ladi Ayayamba is a Muslim, and her belief is that nothing of this sort happens without God actually allowing it to happen. And so in her own words, this happened because God actually wanted that to happen. But for context, listen to Ladi Ayayamba on the floor made this religious point.
I want us to all take solace in the Almighty Allah. There is nothing that happens that doesn't happen at the right time. This is what the Almighty Allah has ordained for them. Today is their day. No matter how no matter what, no matter who was there, as what. Even if we brought all the presidents of the world to sit there as ministers or whatsoever, once today is ordained for them to die, they will. And this is what has happened. Unless you don't believe in the oneness of God, unless you don't believe in the oneness of the Almighty Allah, it is not anybody who wanted them to die. There's no single officer there who wanted even one single soul to pass. Not even one person hoped and prayed that one person would die there. Let us understand that. If that were the wish of anybody, I haven't seen or thought of that person.
Nkoko, also the acting defense minister has been given some assurances, hasn't he?
Well, yes, as all these comments and statements were going on, Dr. Castle Atoforsin walks in, having changed from leading the president to the 37 military hospital. He's now promising that this matter will be thoroughly investigated and that the lessons will be learned, the exercise has been suspended, and the situation will be improved.
And then we also heard from the speaker himself. Did he refer this to the relevant committee in Parliament?
Well, that was some of the demands, the statements, and the comments they'd made. What he has said is that the committees should now look at the work that is going to be done by the Ghana Armed Forces, as in they should monitor them, and when they conclude their investigation, they should also investigate that and present a report to Parliament. He also has a call to the president. He says the president must appoint a defense minister as soon as possible. Here are his reasons.
For us to rethink about the whole process of enlistment, recruitment, employment in the public service. We have a serious challenge. We have to confront it head on. As a result of that, even when I was offered the opportunity to be Minister for Defense, I declined. I declined that offer. His Excellency, the current president, was present. That time he was vice president. He was president when I was offered. I declined for good reason. So please, this is an institution that we all revere. And it's because of them that we are all protected. You know what they do. They decide not to sleep like the police so that we can sleep. It's not an easy job. So please, even though some measures have been taken, I will direct our committee to follow up on the process. And then also emphasize what others have said for us to expedite the process of appointing a substantive minister. It's not because the current minister acting is not capable, but we know the pressures on him. And so we need to have somebody who will come with full report and look at some of the issues you've raised. What prevents this country from having a continuous recruitment or enlistment process? We don't have to wait and do it once every year or sometimes 2 years so that you can accumulate so many people and they have to rush to try and get recognition.
And that there is a Speaker of Parliament speaking on the floor today on a very tragic day. We'll get to you the very latest from the 37 Military Hospital before we close News Night tonight. But Pearl, as we have been learning today, some of the MPs touched on this. Many of those who thronged the Wak Stadium today were there desperate for employment. They wanted an employment. They wanted to get into the armed forces. It was a means of escape from years of sitting at home without a job. And we have been trying to get to terms with what really was the motivation for many of those who were there today.
Well, of course, my colleague Fatal Bayaga spoke to some of the potential recruits. Have a listen.
Is it because of unemployment? And when did you complete high school?
Actually, 2023.
You completed 2023.
Yeah, exactly, 2023.
And why are you so desperate to get into the Ghana Armed Forces?
It has always been my dream since childhood, and then getting to the armed forces is like it's secured, actually, comparing to maybe working for someone or going to a one-man job or daily something. So I feel that people are desperate because it's secured, and then how they announce that they are employing 12,000 people, it gave people hope. That's why it was started like this. I learned 2020, 2021, it was done like this, but then it wasn't bad as it looked like this. And then I feel this one, it was unplanned. Because even though after all the rush we got inside, the queue to the scanning of documents also dismissed. It will dismiss, it will be fixed, dismissed, fixed. Finally they told us that all has been suspended to further notice. So right now we don't know that those who did the yes will be selected and then ours will be just cast away or something. We don't know.
Diane, is it because you want to feed your family? Is it because you want to support your family? That is why you want to get enlisted into the Ghana Armed Forces. And before that, which year did you complete high school?
Okay, I completed high school, that was 2022. And it is always my dream to become either immigration officer or military or police. So they were forcing me that I should apply for nursing and teacher training, but I don't want to, because I don't have the passion. So I tried. So this year I didn't even buy any form, but last year I applied for nursing and I was never admitted. So this year when I heard that armed forces is out and this, and I was like, okay, let me try and buy it. That's the reason I'm here. Not necessary for me to feed my family or no, but to become a successful lady that I want to become, and the dream that I want to fulfill. That's the reason.
What about you?
It's also my dream, my childhood stage. So I completed 2022, but I've decided not to go to school again. So when I heard that the military is, I have to buy something and apply. God being so good, I was qualified. That's why we came here and made this accident and those stuff.
And I want to bring in Professor Govt, who has been following this development today, economist and professor of finance, looking at the bigger picture on what really were some of the key issues economically that may be forcing people to so desperate to get into the armed forces. Some of them you had there. This is their passion. They've actually put their dreams on hold just to get into the armed forces. And Prof, you listen to that. There is something to admire about those voices we had there. They're desperate to serve their country. Some of them, they admire the military, they want to get in. But for many, this is also a means of escape from years of unemployment.
Yes, that is a bigger issue. Good evening. This is unfortunate. Our heart goes to the families, the immediate families. It's not the kind of news that you want to entertain. And at this stage, whatever I say is independent of the Ghana, the military. I have a lot of respect for the military. Anytime I hear the military news about them in this form, I feel very uncomfortable because they are very professional. It's one of the highly respected institutions. In fact, if you look at it within Southern Africa and you engage with people, you will see that the professionalism our military security agencies exhibit, it's quite high. So I have a lot of respect for them, and that is why I wouldn't go into that. I would rather look at it from demand and supply issues. I would rather look at it from the perspective that what we are seeing here is just a testimony of policy failures over the years. This economy, we have not been able to create decent jobs for the people of this country. The World Bank recently told us that between 2012 and 2023, this economy has added just around 250,000 jobs. on net basis, 250,000 jobs. Whilst within that same period, 2.7 million Ghanaians of working population age have entered the labor market. There's no way people will find decent jobs if you have this kind of imbalance. What is happening right now, even beyond what we have just seen, is what we call labor devaluation. People who are highly qualified have had to settle for lower end jobs, which make far less demands on their skills, simply because they have to step down several times in order to find something. Look, by 2040, our population will be 45 million. 30% of that population will be less than 30 years. Between now and 2040, annually we'll be adding over 700,000 to our population. Then again, if you look at the employment response to GDP growth, it's been very weak. So even if you ask all those who go to university to major in job creation, they will end up being successfully unemployed, regardless of the programs that they pursued at the universities. It's simply because we have not been deliberate through resource allocation in engineering job-rich growth.
And you make that point about being deliberate. However, we've seen over the years, almost every government tries this. They create a state-sponsored employment scheme. We have the NYEP. We have other schemes that have been created to employ people.
Evans, we have had reservations about this. At the end of the day, you can reduce all these interventions to just another form of training, create loot share. Because resource allocation does not go to the critical sectors of the economy, the labor-intensive sub-sectors of the economy, where when growth is driven, it will also be job-driven. We haven't done that. You check the budgetary allocation. You would observe how we allocate resources and which sectors receive those resources. As we speak right now, Evans, do you know that you will hear of this tomorrow? In fact, in the last 3 years, Ghana has allocated in excess of 50 billion Ghana cedis just to cover energy sector shortfall. More than 50 billion Ghana cedis. And the bulk of this is just to cover inefficiencies, corruption, procurement breaches, which benefit some few people to the detriment of majority of Ghanaians. That's what we are doing. In fact, if you look at the combined resource allocation to the critical sectors of this economy, health, education, food and agriculture, gender, children, and social protection. If you put all of that together, it's far less compared to how much we are allocating to cover our inefficiencies and corruption within state institutions.
And Prof, I've heard you say many times that the unemployment crisis is a ticking time bomb. It's actually the reason why we're struggling to deal with Galamsey, because again, the people who are into Galamsey,
again, Evans,
we've been told,
Evans,
because they are out of jobs.
We are just using these poor people as face shield. The real beneficiaries of this illegal mining are close to government and they work in the corridors of power in this country. Look, if we declare state of emergency, it will have more effect in Accra and high places in Accra than where the illegal mining is taking place. People you see that they are using them as face shields.
On that unemployment question, which, as you say, is at the heart of what we saw today, that Stampede, the tragic Stampede claimed 6 lives. This is coming just hours before the finance minister presents the 2026 budget. And then he also happens to be the acting defense minister. What will be your proposal ahead of tomorrow? Something that will go to fundamentally deal with this problem of unemployment. Just one top proposal for you as far as the 2026 budget is concerned ahead of tomorrow's presentation.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I think, let me start off this way. I have a lot of respect for the Minister of Finance. I've seen his approach to reset the economy, and largely we agree. And I think that we encourage him to stay on that course. I have listened to certain interventions in terms of agriculture for economic transformation. I've seen the agricultural commercialization initiative. They are talking about palm oil. They are looking at creating over 250,000 jobs. along that value chain and all of that. I'm hoping that they'll be able to back it with the necessary resource allocation and explore greater efficiency along those areas so that resource allocation will get the maximum benefit from that. If you look at what happens in this country, if you take just baseline resource allocation, let's say to Ministry of Health, even to National Health Insurance Authority and the rest of them, you may think that we are doing well. But when you do efficiency analysis, you realize that what goes to the critical areas is very small. The bulk of it is taken up in terms of administrative costs, buying V8, the comfort of duty bearers. That is what we are seeking. I've told you on this show before that if you pick National Health Insurance Authority, the total allocation to them, they spend close to 45% of that just on administrative costs. If we continue on this path, there will be very little resource allocation that will go to the critical sectors of the economy where job-rich growth can be engineered. So I think that, yes, I understand the constraints. If you make budgetary provision for energy sector shortfall, compensation of employees, you are left with very little, and therefore we need to explore greater efficiency in our resource allocation. But finally, Evans.
And very briefly. Yes, very briefly.
Yes. There's one other thing that I want to see in the budget.
Okay.
I want to see adequate resource allocation, budgetary allocation set aside to reclaim our water bodies and our environment. We need to start thinking along that line. If we consider that the way to go as a country is to continue this way because this illegal mining, irresponsible mining is bringing us foreign exchange, ensuring up the stability of the city, then let's do the cost-benefit analysis. Let's allocate sufficient resources to reclaiming our water bodies and our forests from 2026. Otherwise, I am afraid for this country.
Prof, thank you very much. And that there is Professor Govt, Bokping, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. And if you were one of those who caught in the stampede or were there today hoping to be recruited into the Ghana Armed Forces, I want to hear from you tonight. And Pearl, we can actually get an update now on the condition of those who are still on admission and receiving treatment. Veronica Ahin is the Director General in charge of PR of the Ghana Armed Forces, and thankfully she joins us on the line right now. Veronica, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. And we got an update today from the Acting Defense Minister that 7 people are stable, but 5 are still in intensive care. What can you tell us about how they're faring tonight? Hello, Veronica. Okay, we'll try and get Veronica.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic, and great to have you on. I was curious to know how the 5 were told were still in ICU, the intensive care unit, how they're faring, together with 11 who were told were stable.
Thank you so much for the questions. But before I say anything, I would like to once again extend the condolences of the Minister for Defense, the Military High Command, and the entire Ghana Armed Forces to the families of the victims of today's unfortunate incident. Like you asked, since the last meeting or the briefing this afternoon, nothing has changed. So they are still in stable condition, and they are being monitored by the medical team of the 37 military hospitals. And they are given the best of care that I can say for sure.
And I know a board has now been set up to investigate this. Do you have timelines when they are expected to complete your work?
Not yet. That board is meant to find out what led to the current accident so that measures can be put in place to correct it from recurring. So as we speak now, I'm not privy to any date or timing. I believe with time, I'll be able to give you more specific dates and then timing.
The recruitment. Yes,
Hello?
please proceed.
Yes, so I believe that the final details will be made available in due course.
The recruitment in Accra has been suspended.
Yes.
And I know many who were still there today, even after the stampede, we're still hoping that it will resume. What can you tell the thousands who are still waiting for a word from the Ghana Armed Forces when this will resume in Accra?
Okay. For the last release, we indicated that we needed to make additional efforts so that going forward, the recruitment can be seamless. But I can assure them that that will be done as soon as possible. I'm unable to say a day or two, but I believe that we will not waste too much time since all the other regions are going on with their recruitment. So as soon as possible, we'll make efforts to start that of the Greater Accra region.
And how do you respond to the criticism today that the crowd control measures you put in place today were inadequate, and that's what led to the stampede?
I think that is one of the issues that the committee will find out, and then I'll be able to give you a concrete answer to that.
Veronica, thank you very much.
Thank you too for your time.
Veronica Ahin is the Director General in charge of PR at the Ghana Armed Forces.
Evans, at the heart of all this is the issue of unemployment, which you just discussed with Professor Bobkin. Caleb Ziblim is a member of our research team, and he has been looking at the unemployment figures in the country. Joins us in the studio. Caleb, first tell us, how does Ghana's unemployment picture look at the moment, especially among the youth?
Yes, Pearl. So the numbers tell the story really. So about 1.42 million Ghanaians aged 15 to 35 were jobless at the end of last year. And if you expand it a bit, about 2 million youth in Ghana are considered idle. And that's according to the Ghana Statistical Service. And by idle, we mean they are not employed, they are not in education, and they are not in training. So we have 1.42 million Ghanaians aged 15 to 35 years unemployed. And we have 2 million Ghanaians idle.
And let's narrow it down to today's recruitment exercise. Why did so many applicants show up this year?
So unfortunately, we could not find the total number of applications that the armed forces received this year. But then when we do some tracking from what the late defense minister, Dr. Omani Boama said, he indicated that 12,000 personnel will be recruited up to 2028. And when you do the math, that's about 3,000 personnel every year. So this year, we're expecting about 3,000 personnel to be recruited into the armed forces. And then we don't know how much exactly the numbers that apply to the situation, to the recruitment, but we know that the armed forces would accept about 3,000 personnel. So then the whole recruitment process will be for 3,000 personnel.
Caleb Ziblim, always exciting to have you here. Thank you so much for that update. It's time for business, and George Riafe is here. George, what do we have coming up?
Well, in business, you're talking about unemployment, and it looks like the budget is expected to focus on existing special initiative to help create more jobs to deal with the unemployment situation in the country. And government finally rolls out its flagship poultry program in Nkoko Nkitinkiti that seeks to cut down on imports and boost local production to aid employment. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. Sintex tanks and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, Finance Minister Dr. Atuforsen is expected to focus on existing special initiatives and programs to help create more jobs from next year. Now, this will be highlighted in the 2026 budget that will be presented to Parliament tomorrow. There is more in this report.
It's looking at how the current program can be fully implemented so that the economy can benefit from the real dividend that comes with these initiatives. So, for instance, how can government extend the needed funding to the 24-hour economy program and the Big Push agenda in order to take off smoothly? This will result in the Finance Minister not ruling out fresh projects and initiatives for 2026, but rather give more details on how government is planning to fund these projects. The Finance Minister will also be outlining other measures that will help deal with the unemployment situation in the country. The minister will also use the occasion to highlight how government has worked hard to stabilize the economy, looking at what they inherited and what they've done so far. There will be some details about the IMF program and what government's plan is for the economy after the program ends in May 2026. It is not clear for now whether government will heed to the IMF's request for some technical extension of the program by some 6 months.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, government has finally rolled out its flagship poultry program in Nkoko Nkitinkiti, with its official launch today by President John Mahama. The initiative seeks to distribute over 3 million birds across the country to help cut down imports and boost local production to aid employment. Our initiative will be carried out in phases following the launch today. Let's hear from the Deputy Minister of Agric, John Domelo.
Every constituency is going to get 10,000 birds. Now, if you break it down into households, that means 200 households in every constituency will get 50 birds for you to rear in your backyard. Now, one, it's going to create a lot of employment. Two, it's going to create a lot of interest in the poultry sector. And three, hopefully it will reduce our importation of poultry products over the next couple of years. And so if you watch our balance sheet and you realize that, look, we import so much, the chunk of our imports is poultry. Addressing it like this will be good. Now, these birds are vaccinated. And so once we give it to you, all you need is to give the feed that we are also giving to you. And then once they are ready within about 8 weeks, 9 weeks, you can either sell it or you have certain companies who will come and buy it from you and then they will process it and package it and, of course, sell it off the market.
John Domelo is the Deputy Minister of Food and Agri. Now, this initiative is part of government's broader Feed Ghana project. Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange has called for a speedy cabinet approval to enable the state-owned enterprises raise capital from the fixed income and equity markets. Speaking at the 10th anniversary of the Ghana fixed income market, that is, Managing Director Brian Amoah emphasized the potential of the financial market to raise patient capital for development.
Government and businesses are looking for patient long-term capital. The Ghana Stock Exchange is ready to facilitate this connection. We therefore call for 4 things. 1, Cabinet's speedy approval for viable state-owned enterprises to use GIFM and other GSE platforms to raise capital and for improved corporate governance. 2, the promotion of bond-backed public-private partnerships for infrastructure financing and the issuance of municipal bonds.
Brian Amoah is the Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has signed a memorandum of understanding with its counterparts in Barbados. Now, President of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stephen Mensah, says the partnership will help bridge the gap in terms of trade and open opportunities for businesses of both sides. He spoke to Job Business in Barbados on the sidelines of the 2025 GUPA Awards, which brought together business leaders and policymakers from Africa and the Caribbean.
This is a very important occasion that I think that the continent of Africa has long been waiting for, to have that relationship with the Caribbeans. You know, to come to the Caribbean, you always have to go to a second country, or let's say third of Barbados, as we are here now. And you have to go to UK, go to the US, or you have to go through the European continent. And then you don't get a visa for any of these countries. Then how do you come? So, first of all, the idea straight to the Caribbean has been achieved and has to be sustained. And we have promised them that we want to see that this is not just a 9-day wonder, this is not just a signing ceremony, but to be able to continue.
President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stephen Mensah, speaking to Joy Business in Barbados. Now, MTN Ghana is reinforcing its dedication to sustainable business practices through its annual Sustainability Week. Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer Ajoria Fit says that the company is embedding sustainability into its core strategy.
This week is a week that we have set aside to just create awareness around sustainability, to showcase what we are doing so that we are able to encourage others to go out there and do that. It's a way of also encouraging our employees to do more and to build a culture of sustainability within our organization. For MTN, and I think for a lot of other companies, the starting point is our strategy. Making sure that sustainability is not something that we push to the side, but it's something that is core to the way we do business. So a strategic priority for us is shared value. How do we ensure that whatever we are doing benefits not only us, but our community? It's eco-friendly, so protecting the environment. It is done ethically and contributes to the economy of the country.
Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer at MTN Ghana, Ajua Riafe. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you,
George. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to tomorrow's budget. I know you are leading the team in Parliament, yourself and Kweku. And we're also going to have an in-house team. We're going to be across the country because, as you know, the finance minister, as we now term it, autonomics, is really heavy on the real economy. And that is why you've seen that he's been visiting marketplaces, he's been to Benso, he's been to Takrade. So we're going to be in some of these market areas, centers, just to gauge their reaction, the build up to it, but also reaction after in terms of how the policies is going to affect them. You know, they really feel the impact of government.
Evans will be looking forward to his strategy on how to deal with the employment situation, because he will be giving some details on government's plan going into next year to try and reduce unemployment in the country.
You want to join us all day from morning. George leading the team, myself, Winston, and the rest of the squad here in the studio with a crack team of analysts who will also join us, build up into the budget, listen to it, and analyze and unpack for you here on Joy News and Joy 99.7 FM. And let's do some sports now. Granton is here with the latest.
Yeah, Nigeria's Super Eagles, they have resumed training ahead of their crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup playoff game against Gabon following a temporary boycott over unpaid bonuses. The players and officials had earlier refused to train in Morocco yesterday, where the match is set to take place in protest against delays in settling their allowances and appearance fees. Team captain William Troost-Ekong confirmed earlier today that the matter has been resolved. The Super Eagles took part in training earlier today ahead of tomorrow's crucial FIFA World Cup qualifier against Gabon. The winner of that game will take on Cameroon or DRC, who also play their semi-final tomorrow. Moving on, renowned Italian manager Carlo Ancelotti has praised former Ghana international Michael Essien as one of the best players he's ever worked with. The Brazil head coach who managed Essien at Chelsea listed the Ghanaian alongside Andrea Pirlo, Luka Modric and others as some of the best players he's ever managed.
Give us a list of midfielders. This is good. I like this.
Pirlo, Xabi Alonso, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Casemiro, Lampard, Ballack, Essien, Chelsea. I had Arturo Vidal, Seedorf, Gattuso, Ambrosini. Unbelievable.
You had Brazil head coach Carlo Ancelotti speaking there, bringing an end to sports. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And I want to bring to you a few of your messages on our WhatsApp console now. Nana says, Evans, I'm sure there are people at Wak who are employed. I know a lady who works in a bank and lost 15,000 cedis paying bribe to get into the border guards a couple of years back. Indeed, some of the voices we heard say they have made a choice that it is the Ghana Armed Forces they indeed want to serve in, and they've put their lives on hold just to get in because of the pride they have wearing the uniform. Prophet Tema says, since 2020, we never heard of military recruitment. It was always done secretly for party members. We only hear that they have passed out. NDC wanted to open and be transparent in this particular process. Parker from Akachi says, why can't recruitment be decentralized? Leaders think out of the box. Kofi from Akrapem says, I think the military nationality nationally caused this because they want to use protocols for recruitment. God's Way in Adenta says, 6 people dead. I'm deeply saddened by the occurrence of an unfortunate incident. I cannot rationalize such tragedy. he says. And in high events, Bannerman in the US, it says the chaotic incident that occurred at the Wak Stadium that led to the loss of lives was unfortunate. This shouldn't have happened in the first place. And Francis in Accra, in fact, it is very, very unfortunate. We lost our loved ones at the Wak Stadium. We can't why can't we use the Black Star Square, Accra Sports Stadium or Legon Stadium for this? Because he believes there's much more space there.
And let's talk about Galamsey now, because the Sekyere water treatment plant in the central region is on the brink of total shutdown, choked by heavy silt. That's crippling operations and causing acute water shortages across parts of the region. Workers now spend hours each day manually shoving thick mud, barely 20 meters from the plant's raw water intake on the River Pra. But with Galamsey activities worsening siltation and turbidity levels, the Sekyere headworks is fast losing the battle. Communities including Cape Coast, Commander, Elmina and surrounding areas are already enduring the brunt. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in a continuing series, Dear Mahama, Stop Galamsey.
Young men soaked in muddy water, pushing and shoving heavy silt away just to let a trickle of raw water reach the intake pipes of the Sekyere water treatment plant. What should be an occasional maintenance has now become a daily battle, a fight for a river that is slowly dying.
Yes, Sekyere water plant.
The Sekyere water treatment plant is very close to us, but because the River Pra is so polluted, it's hard for them to treat the water and supply it to our homes.
But as a mom, we use Jumani Adiano, I got himself for mom, we use Juman. I'm saying, when we use to say unity now, I say, and your memoir, dear mama, and soon as we've been to me and so yes.
The River Pra, once clear and life-giving, is now thick with mud from illegal mining upstream. Each day, the workers here shovel away tons of silt. Work meant to be done every few months, now repeated almost every single day. Without their efforts, the plants cannot draw enough raw water to treat, and communities downstream would wake up to dry taps.
Yellow bread dough. Elmina people, you are suffering from water. Central region, yellow bread dough.
For residents like Kofi Techi, the River Pra is a painful memory.
It's really sad to see the River Pra polluted. This is same water we used to drink. It's so now polluted. It's heartbreaking. We are looking to the government to deal with the Galamsey.
Kofi recalls when illegal miners tried to dig just meters away from the Sekyere treatment plant. The community chased them away, but their victory was short-lived. The river never recovered from the pollution miles away in the western region.
This isn't how the water used to be when I first came to live here. It was sparkling clean. We could see fish swimming in it whenever we crossed on our way to the farm. Before, when we were thirsty, we could fetch and drink, but not anymore. Now, we can't even bathe or wash with it.
Back then, whenever I crossed the river to my farm, I would fetch some water to drink. Even if my 50 pesos coin fell inside, I could see and pick it up.
What I was for soon, dear, my trying to be 1 year or 2 years in a year. You're being sour, one of that.
If I am not mistaken, it's been about 2 years since water last flowed through our taps.
Officials at the treatment plants declined to speak on camera. Workers, too, fearful of sanctions, would not talk, but their silence speaks volumes.
It is becoming a constant battle in getting raw water for this treatment plant in order to feed the thousands of homes in its catchment area. they are calling for urgent action to stop the illegal mining.
Until then,
they fear the worst.
The story of Sekyere Hemang treatment plants goes beyond a local crisis. It is Ghana's reflection in muddy water, a nation watching its rivers die, and with them, its future. If we fail to protect the pra, Ayensu, and Cobra, and Dolphin, we fail to protect ourselves and our future. Emmanuel Jivani, Joy News, Sekyere Hemang, Central Region.
And before we go, it's just 15 days to the Republic Bank Lava Firm Habitat Fair in Kumasi, and the discounts are already pouring in. Now, let me ask you, what's a home without strong, secure doors? If you're planning to own a house or any property, you need top quality doors and windows to keep intruders out. Superlock is offering a massive 20% discount on its range of security and fire-resistant doors at this year's Habitat Fair. Now visit the Superlock stand at the Kumasi City Mall from the 27th of November to the 30th of November and take advantage of these unbeatable discounts. And Evans, remember the countdown is on. It's just 15 days to go.
Indeed. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am Pale Ofori.